We're all here because we think Bitcoin is going to disrupt a lot of the existing infrastructure. So if we have all these transaction processing companies in our city, and if we think that Bitcoin is going to disrupt everything and the Lightning Network is going to disrupt everything, it's going to disrupt all these companies in our city. So why don't we build a space where people working on Bitcoin can come work together, network with other people who are working on similar projects, get some of that synergy going, places where these companies can send their employees to do workshops so that they can learn about the Lightning Network and all the surrounding suite of technologies in Bitcoin. Like, there's no reason that they can't get involved in that. And so if they just need a space where they know they need people in their city who can help them learn about that stuff. So I think more importantly, we see Atlanta as being a transaction processing hub, and these companies, they can continue, kind of with a bold future on the Lightning Network.
Welcome to the Builders in Bitcoin podcast, a podcast about the people who bring Bitcoin to life. I'm your host, Rod, and I go by the handle BitKite on Twitter. In today's episode, I'm joined by Bitcoin design community member and designer, and also co-organizer of TABConf, which is happening in Atlanta, October 12th through 15th, Stephen DeLorme. Stephen and I discuss and dig into who should attend TABConf and what they'll experience, the benefits and challenges of open source work, Stephen's many projects, including recently announced on this pod, WhenTaproot, and the Terminus Electric Money Laboratory, and a whole lot more. I enjoyed the heck out of this conversation, and I hope you will too. So let's just jump right in. Hey, Stephen. Welcome back to Nashville.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rod.
How the heck are you?
Oh, great. You?
I'm doing well. I'm actually, people always say I have like a smile always on my face, but today, especially of all days, my smile is ear to ear. We have a number of folks in town, and we have the meetup later tonight. We have a workshop today. And actually, Steve Myers is going to lead the first here in Nashville. We're calling it the Bitcoin Monthly News and Updates. So he's going to spend an hour of his time, which is very kind of him, to walk through relative Bitcoin development updates.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've seen him do that before at BitDevs LA.
Yes. And
before he was a Nashvilleian.
Yes, we are very, very lucky to have him in town. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think we got a great turnout for the workshop. Last time I checked the meetup.com/Bitcoin Park meetup page, we had like almost 60 people attending that workshop. And so we'll see how it goes. But it's, no Atlanta BitDevs.
Yeah, I guess not. But it can grow. It can grow into that,
Totally. And we were just talking a little bit off air. It's like, and let's just go right into TABConf because how did even TABConf come about, by the way?
Well, I wasn't there from the very beginning. I mean, I attended the first one, but I wasn't helping with it. But I mean, it was founded by Mike Tidwell and Brandon Iglesias. And so basically, they were running this meetup group, and, this was during the the 2017, bull run, where it was just like, I mean, you'd have sometimes an event with like 200 people there. I mean, it was ridiculous. And, so the meet was great. And they kind of were joking among themselves, like, what if we did a conference or something? And so they did one. I think that was, 2018, January or February of that year. And again, I mean, don't quote me on this. You have to get their side of the story.
Sure.
But I think if I remember correctly, they said it was kind of like a joke. Like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we just did a conference? And they ended up completely selling out. I remember I bought one of those tickets. I just happened to get it at the right time. And it was, very, very small. It was I think, three tracks going on simultaneously. But one day, probably, I don't know, there may have been 4 or 5 talks in each track. But it ended up being very successful. People thought that it was okay, we're bringing in developers to talk about real stuff. So they scaled it up for 2019. And that was successful. Then they tried to scale it up again for 2020. And, that's when I got on board as planning the 2020, helping them with the 2020 conference. And that never actually materialized for obvious reasons.
Yep.
But, I've stayed, stuck with it and helped out with the 2021. And now we're doing 2022.
Actually, funny enough, Away Slice, we recorded a pod yesterday and we were talking through different types of growth opportunities and the trade-offs between growth, because when you scale an event pretty large, you kind of lose potentially its luster, maybe its focus, maybe the incentives change or so on. Um,
hmm
but yours is different. The TABConf is different, right? Because all the revenue or all the profits go to open source development.
Yeah, exactly. That was something we started last year for the first time, and so this year our conference charity is Brink. So, if for anyone who's not aware, Brink, that's basically they, they kind of, I guess a good way of putting it is they help people kind of learn how to be professional open source contributors. So I think they've done some grants and stuff like that, and they do like training and workshops and stuff. But they basically help like onboard developers into like professionally contributing to Bitcoin projects. So brink.dev is their website, and yeah, I mean yeah, it is like we don't have like it's a very kind of I don't want to say grassroots, but it's a very grassrootsy kind of event, and that I mean it's just kind of like when you really get down to it with Bitcoin, all the people who actually write the code are kind of like there on the internet. You can see
Yep.
their GitHub profiles.
I love that.
You can see their Twitter accounts, and like there's nothing to stop you from like reaching out to them and DMing them and being like, "Hey, do you want to come to this event?" And sometimes like sometimes with Bitcoin, it's there's a time to talk about the economics of it, and there's a time to talk about the art and the culture of it and all that. But also I think our perspective, just this is something that we're personally very interested in, understanding it very deeply. And actually building it and working on it. And so we just kind of are following that interest, trying to build, the kind of conference that we'd have the most fun at, and get all the people who are actually building this stuff
Yep.
there to help out with it.
See, that's where I think the best kind of events or meetups or workshops come from the people that want to build the stuff that they would want to attend. So, but just to be specifically clear, so it's a ticketed event.
Mhm.
I buy a ticket for X amount of dollars, and all that money goes straight to Brink.dev.
Well, so right now we have to pay for the hotel, we
Sure.
have to pay for, all the events and all that. So the basic idea is that the money that we make in excess of that, like first
Yep.
thing we have to do is make sure that, vendors and expenses and all that are
Totally.
paid. And then everything beyond that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I will say this, running a little bit of a successful meetup here in Nashville and then starting to work on these workshop ideas I have, and then starting to branch out to more on the events side. Here at Bitcoin Park, we have a finite amount of, even though it's an amazing campus, it's still a finite amount of space. We can only have X amount of people here, which is a great limiting factor, because at the end of the day, we can only have X amount of people here, right? Um, so we're fortunate to be able to create specific topics. So whether it's in mining, lightning, food, uh, open source, sports, entertainment, and there's a number of ideas that we're tinkering with, and keeping the focus on these areas, I think will go a long way. And so similar to TABConf, you guys are focused on creating, I would say, the best Bitcoin developer conference in the world. And so, just to close the loop there, it's in October.
hmm Yep, it's in October. It's October 12th through 15th. And so, basically you can you get your tickets for it at tabconf.com. It's probably one of the cheaper Bitcoin conferences you'll find. Like right now, I think, I mean, as I'm saying this, they're $250, but, the price will continue to increase.
Yep.
And you show up on October 12th, and we'll have tables full of open source projects. You go meet them, meet the people who are working on your projects. They'll show you how to use their tooling, how to
Wow.
make contributions to their project. So if you are looking for a career in this industry or want to contribute to an open source project or are just curious, you can go to any of those tables and contribute on Builder Day. You show up the next day for Workshop Day. It's a day of, oh my God, we got so many this year. It's like at least 12, I think more than that actually. So you bring your laptop, you just do workshops with people from Bitcoin companies, people building Bitcoin projects. And then the 14th and the 15th is going to turn into a more traditional kind of conference type setting with panels and speakers, except for the villages. There's gonna be the gaming village. You go play video games, earn Bitcoin over the Lightning Network for playing video games. You go to the next gen
Damn.
village. There's gonna be art and activities and stuff like that. There's the pleb dev village, so you can get pleb lab and Nifty and I are involved in that. So you go get entrepreneur startup advice, learn how to develop. And then we got the BitDev Socratic Village. So, if you can't get enough at your local BitDevs meetup, you go there for just like back-to-back Socratics all day.
This is a freaking endeavor, man.
It's a community-built effort. I mean, we have a very large organizing team this year, and then kind of like each village is kind of its own little kind of mini organizing team. And then, yeah, I mean, people love it. And sometimes when, a village is planning an event and then they see somebody on the main stage and they'll reach out to them and say, hey, do you want to come, talk with us or be on our panel in our village? And so it's a very collaborative process.
How many people are you expecting?
I'm thinking about 500.
Damn. Man, that's awesome. So in Atlanta, where's the location?
So it is the Omni Hotel at CNN Center. So it's right in downtown Atlanta. It's near Centennial Olympic Park, if that gives a good frame of reference.
Okay. So October 12th to 15th,
Mm-hmm.
downtown Atlanta, 3 days, if I followed you correctly.
4 days. Builder Day, Workshop Day, and then 2 conference days.
Okay. 4 days. So 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, got it. 2 conference days plus villages within that conference. How many people are working on this?
Well, let's see. I mean, I think our org team is like between 10 and 15 people, like our main org team. And then we have kind of some, a day of volunteers. There's probably gonna be people volunteering the day of. And then each village kind of handles their affairs on their own. So I'm honest, I imagine each village is probably like, between 3 and 5 people planning.
Is there a Bitcoin design village?
Not this year, but we are going to have a Builder Day table.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm definitely hosting a table on Builder Day to onboard people to that.
Because I was going to ask, and this could be a really good segue into what we want to talk about today. Who's obviously developers or aspiring or curious developers that want to maybe contribute to open source projects is obviously one. Who's the ideal audience to attend? Like someone like a noob like me,
I mean, you could be, I'd say anyone can attend. The thing about it is that, like, I'm not going to lie, it's a pretty technical conference. So you're going to get the most out of it if you love hearing, like people who work on, on Bitcoin Core talk about, BIPs and pull requests and stuff like that. So having said that, though, there's a lot of space for like beginners at TABConf. I mean, for people who are just curious and just want to learn, you don't have to go to those technical talks. Hang out in the gaming village, play video games, hang out in the next gen village, see art and stuff like that. But also, I just say that there's like a whole there's a lot of room for working in Bitcoin that has nothing to do with contributing to Bitcoin Core. Like if you're a web developer, you can take those skills you have as a web developer, put them to use on a Bitcoin company or like building a Bitcoin wallet or something like that. So you don't have to be that technical to actually contribute to a Bitcoin open source project. And then you could be a designer like me, contributing to Bitcoin with like user experience and UI stuff. So I mean, there's plenty of ways to get into it. I would say that the real thing with TABConf is that it's our kind of phrase, our like tagline this year is building builders, right? And so the idea is come to the conference.
Cool.
Yeah, you come to the conference and then you leave excited to build stuff on Bitcoin. How you build that is up to you, whether you're writing code, doing design, or just being there to, support companies and projects in the space. We want to be a little bit agnostic about that. But the point is, if you're interested, curious about building on Bitcoin, you need to be at TABConf.
Rock on. That is awesome, by the way, which is a great segue because I feel there's so many creative people in the world. And I feel like one area, and we talked about this on the Lost Tape.
The Lost Tape.
We'll get to the Lost Tape here in a second. But, and again, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
There's so many creative people doing great design work. And they may be Bitcoin curious or Bitcoin focused or want to contribute. And that's why I'm so dang bullish on the Bitcoin design community or the open source Bitcoin design project that you're part of, and a number of other folks are part of, because I feel like that's one of the best ways to onboard folks into Bitcoin from the creative area. So before I offer my own perspective, which I don't want to do, maybe Stephen, if you can just explain the project.
Yeah, so I mean, the Bitcoin design community is basically, this way for designers and creatives to, contribute to Bitcoin projects, and um, it started. I mean, like the kind of backstory on it. Like, hopefully, I don't like screw up some details here, but like basically, Spiral. They were called Square Crypto at the time. But that's basically like the wing of Square that funds open source Bitcoin work. They were looking to like hire a designer, I think, and they were trying to find a
That's right.
designer, and they interviewed a lot of people, and then they ultimately just realized that the job was too big for one person. Like improving the user experience of Bitcoin was more than one person could handle. So they ended up this, kind of like spearheading this effort for the Bitcoin design community, and just like we'll just give open source grants to designers who want to work on Bitcoin. So, like Christoph Ono was one of the first ones. I think he was the first one because he's kind of like he's kind of the father of the community in a way. And I think there was Johns Bahari, there was Daniel Nord. I mean, there was a lot of people. You go to spiral.xyz, you see all the people who got grants. So basically the idea is you have these designers, you give them a grant for 6 months or a year, and then they can just focus doing design work for Bitcoin. And they form this community. It's a Slack, it's a Slack channel at the moment. And it's just a place where people can discuss things relating to the user experience of Bitcoin. And the kind of community project, like the main community project that was kind of kicked off very early on, was this thing called the Bitcoin Design Guide. And the idea is that it's this resource that people building Bitcoin projects can use to better inform their user experience. So maybe it's like a designer who doesn't know very much about Bitcoin and how it works, or a developer who needs help with their UX. And so it's like a guide of user experience principles for Bitcoin. And the project has grown. It's open source. You can see what we're doing on GitHub. I joined up with the community like February of last year, I think, and just kind of got like sucked in and was like, oh, wow, this is what I want to do. Then I ended up applying for a grant, and I mean, then I've just kind of been there ever since. But there's a lot of other projects going on. Sometimes there's collaborations with other open source Bitcoin wallets.
Hmm.
Sometimes there's other community projects going on. So there's a lot of good stuff there.
So you've been part of the community for less than a year?
I guess about a year and a half now,
Okay,
because
yeah.
it would be February 2021. I think is when I probably like signed on, or maybe March, somewhere in there.
That's what I thought. And you mentioned all these different projects. So I think one good action item, if there's any creatives listening here, is joining the Slack channel and
hmm
just listening. Where's the best place to find that Slack channel, by the way?
Just go to bitcoin.design. That's the web address, and then there's instructions there on joining the Slack channel.
Perfect. And we talk going back to the lost tape. I'm going to just reference something on the lost tape. Um, Joining the Slack channel, I think, is a great first step, even if you are a lurker, and if you don't feel like whether you don't think for some reason you're good enough, or you can contribute or so on, you'd be surprised.
hmm
Is that a fair point?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I didn't think that it was going to like turn into a job for me.
Yeah, tell us about that
I
story.
mean, I was like, I had made in my mind that I was going to, get a job working for a Bitcoin company. And I was like, well, my portfolio is all this like corporate B2B stuff, and I don't have like any Bitcoin related stuff in my portfolio. Like, I feel kind of dumb applying. And then I stumbled upon the design community, and I was like, oh my God, this is me, because I'm a designer and I'm creative, but also like I love learning about technical things and digging deep. And I'm like, I'm not the best designer, but I'm not the best programmer, but this is like a play, where I can combine both of those things. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect. I'm just going to jump in here and volunteer for every single thing people say they need help with. So they'd be like, someone would get in the channel. I was like the like reply guy. It would be like, hey, we're looking for help with this issue. And we'd be like, oh, I'll do it. And then like in another channel in the same, workspace, someone would be like, hey, looking for, some illustration for this wallet project. Like, I'll do it. And so I just kept volunteering. And then somebody bumped me and was like, you should you're going to keep doing this, you should probably apply for a grant. And
You're
I
like,
was
what's that?
yeah, what's that? What's that? And
There's that meme. It's like, wait a minute, you guys are getting paid for this?
yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, and I've seen that same thing happen to other people too. Now I'm on the other side of that of like, reaching out to people like, you should probably apply for a grant because Magashni was one of the most recent ones to get a grant, and she's entirely contributing to user experience research. So she doesn't even do like at least on a day-to-day basis, not as much of the nitpicky building out these specific UI components so much as like doing like really solid research about how people are using Bitcoin or what kinds of, things, why people use certain apps, what sorts of things they do and don't like about these apps. And, it's like she just kind of stumbled into it too, I think, from some other community she was on online and just, started joining calls and stuff like that. That's the thing is so many people get their start in the community just by lurking and sitting in the background of calls. And then someone's like, oh, hey, I need a logo for this wallet I'm starting. And then they do it. And then they, get onboarded and they're contributing and sometimes even getting jobs and grants out of it.
So Stephen, the reply guy, DeLorme, is where, that's one piece of advice. First, start lurking. Then, if you feel you're up for it, go full on reply guy. But in all seriousness, I think that's a fascinating way to get involved. I've joined a couple, again, as a super lurker. I'm not even a designer. I'm very curious. One other cool thing is you post, you have open Google Meets or calendar invites, and you can add or subscribe to the Bitcoin Design calendar.
Yeah, you can go onto we've got a repository on GitHub called Bitcoin Design/Meta where we create calendar events. So anybody can submit an event like as an issue, and then then it can be added to the calendar. And so a lot of these events just kind of happen spontaneously. Like some of the core people in Bitcoin Design plan the design guide jam sessions and all those kinds of things. But there's a lot of events on the calendar that
I've seen Gigi with Join Market. I've seen the wallet events from Breeze and Blixt and some other ones.
Yeah, so Pavlinex was a
right.
BTC Pay server contributor. He was organizing this wallet review project where so he was adding all these events to the calendar where we would all test out a certain wallet, provide feedback on it on the call together. Then there's Join Market ones. There's the Zeus project. There's design calls for those. Fediment has gotten very active in the community now too. So there's some designers in the Fediment Discord, and then there's also a Fediment channel in Bitcoin Design, and Pete Wen, who's been contributing to the Fediment wiki. He's been kind of spearheading a little bit of that in Bitcoin Design, and so there's now designers that are just jumping into the Fediment channel and working on their website. And it was pretty cool because it's I'm seeing the same thing happening again. These people are just hey, we need a new Fediment website, and then these people in the community are like, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
That's awesome. So working on these websites. By the way, one thing again, referencing the lost tapes we talked about was the I don't know if dance is the right word or trade off, but taking on free work versus paid work and charging for your time. I'm going to leave it open-ended because I want to get your thoughts and perspective again. Sorry. Again,
no, it's okay.
Those tapes.
Yeah, it was that accident that happened and just destroyed all the tapes.
What had happened was,
it's a common issue for designers, particularly if you're coming into this from outside of tech or outside of open source. You're told to not do free work, which in most cases is really good advice. Your time is valuable. If somebody wants it, then they should pay for it. And then there's exceptions for that. Obviously, if you wanted to do something for charity or you're doing something for your mom or whatever. But most of the time you don't do free work. And there's all kinds of tropes and memes about that. People will do little web comics about the same thing, and it'll be I remember there's one that was really funny. It was this guy's There's this guy, graphic designer who used to do this awesome webcomic series. I can't even remember the name of it. It would be like he would do this different take on the asking for free work. It would be like he walks into a tattoo parlor and he's like, "Hey, can you tattoo this on my arm?" And
Oh yeah.
yeah, can you give it to me for free? And the guy's like, "No, I'm not gonna tattoo you for free." And he's like, "But it'll give you so much exposure." Or like, "Hey, can you change my oil for free? Or like, replace my spark plugs for free?" And it's like, it'll give you so much exposure. So it's like, yeah, the metaphor is obviously that as a designer, you're doing work. It's just as valuable as a tattoo artist, as a mechanic, as whatever. If somebody needs it, then it has a value to it. Okay. How does that work in open source, though? How does that translate? Obviously, a lot of times in open source, we end up doing free work, and that goes against, I think, the like instincts and the learnings that most graphic designers have in their career. Why would you contribute your design work to this free code project when they're not paying you? And it's like, yeah, that can be an issue. But open source, I think of as being separate from these other projects for a couple of reasons. Like, open source is different than making a tattoo on somebody or fixing their car or cooking them dinner. Because open source is something that you can use. You can build open source software that you personally want to use. So you can, and it's free at that point if it's open source. So you can build the kind of software that you want to use. You can also, build software that might come in handy in your career later. I mean, like, WordPress is a great example of this, and that it's like a free open source project. But even though you can download it and use it for free, businesses end up forming entire business plans out of setting it up, installing, managing sites for people, all this kind of stuff. So there are business models around open source. But more importantly, I think that, like, in addition to like making free contributions to open source, one thing that's really cool about it is that I think it's a good kind of career building move.
Mhm.
You like, if you do work, free work for some local bakery, it might give you exposure. It might not. Also, no one could ever know you
Yep.
designed their flyer. You do open source work, and you're there on GitHub. Even if you're not writing code, hopefully you're there in the comments talking about stuff, opening issues, stuff like that. You form a record of your contribution. So, like, your GitHub profile kind of in a way kind of becomes like your resume a little bit, because even if you move to another job, or even if you decide you don't want to work professionally in open source, you want to get a job, designing at some tech company. Well, you've got this like track record. It's like, hey, look, this is this open source project I contributed to. Not only can you see the cool design work I did to it, but you can also go back through the comments and see like what kind of
Yes.
person I am to work with.
Nailed it, because it's like June's Bakery, you could show a logo or some like, CSS stuff or whatever. But if you show like, let's say on the, I don't know, Zeus wallet, and you could see how active and engaged you've been in the project and then see the output, and you could get a sense of the type of habits or the type of work ethic he or she will have potentially when you hire that person for it. So I kind of now think about like design. I mean, there's so many different facets of design, similar to engineering or development. You got front end devs,
Mhm.
back end devs. You got this dev type of code base, whatever. Design's kind of the same way. You're like an art director. You're a front end designer. You're
Mhm.
a you're a graphics person. You're a stylist. Whatever else have you. So for the Bitcoin design community, what are areas that y'all need you think you need help? Or are there specific areas, or where can people help?
Yeah, so I mean, like, one thing is on the Bitcoin Design Guide right now. We're currently finishing up work on a section called the Daily Spending Wallet, which is about it's a reference design. So it's kind of like this complete prototype for a Lightning wallet that runs on your phone. And the idea is that you use it for your daily purchases. It's supposed to be designed in such a way that it helps you do your daily business, in a hypothetical world where everyone accepts Bitcoin, right? So we have that, and then we have these other reference designs that kind of need some extra work done, like the savings wallet, upgradable wallet, all these different ideas. So one good place is on the guide, and you may not feel comfortable contributing to the design guide because it is a very large project with a lot of kind of like context to it. But there's you go into the issues on the design guide, and there's good first issues where, like, there's just pages that need some artwork at the top of the page. So great places like, if you're an illustrator or, branding designer or what have you, you can just contribute just by making some artwork for the page. And if you want to get in a little bit deeper, you could, start actually trying to write content for the guide. If you see something in the guide that you don't like or bothers you, or you think the guide is missing something, you open an issue and say, I think we should add X, Y, Z to the guide, so that we can actually have a discussion about that and get that kind of content in there. Other places would be, there's numerous projects, in the community, and like Zeus Wallet has been a very successful collaboration. Join Market's been a very successful collaboration. So you can always jump in and join these projects' calls and see what they need help with. Fediment, like I said, is definitely one of the most recent ones in there. Another thing that we're launching soon, I don't think this is too soon to talk about this, is
Add in the breaking sound graphic.
We're starting something soon. I mean, you can see us building this in public already if you're in a Slack channel. It's not like some super secret thing, but so we're planning what's called the Designathon. It's kind of like a hackathon,
cool.
but it's for designers. So yeah, it'll be the Bitcoin Designathon. And
when is that?
I don't know. I can pull out Slack and check for you.
Okay. Well, we definitely want to post that in the show
Yeah,
notes.
absolutely.
Because the reason why I say that is like, and I wanted to talk. Well, we're going to just talk about it on air now. I want to use this canvas for you, especially in the Bitcoin design community. Matt and I are very thankful for this is a community supported endeavor, and without the community support, the lights would not be on. We're going to have a handful of company supporters to make sure the lights stay on as well. It allows us the opportunity to host specific projects that are near and dear to us. For example, like the Bitcoin Policy Institute, we gave them like a few months, and now they're off and running of a workspace here as well. So similarly to like the Bitcoin design community, if there's folks that want to that are contributing to the Bitcoin design community and they're doing it full time, we want to help them out. So if there's like a day for the Bitcoin Designathon and you wanted to do it, have a somewhat in-person experience, let's talk about having it here at Bitcoin Park.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good. I got to check the exact date. Like Christoph and others are the ones like more active in planning that. So I need to go double check the exact date. But I mean, the basic gist of it is that like hackathons are cool, and we always encourage designers to get involved in hackathon. I'm very bullish on that. Having said that, you sometimes get into situations where projects they get in a hackathon, they might be the only designer on the team, and there's a lot of pressure to get something coded, like, oh, we have to submit something to the hackathon that's like actually a working product. And sometimes that doesn't really like lend itself well to like if you're just trying to focus on making a product that's really well designed. So we're trying to make a hackathon that's like no coding. I'm not going to say you're going to be like disqualified if you write a line of code, but like no coding, please. Like you're being judged on your design work, on your Figma file, what have you. And it's a place for the designers to experiment with cool ideas, whether that's just, maybe you just want to make the best kind of Bitcoin wallet, the kind that you want to use, or maybe you want to design the Bitcoin wallet that you think your child might want to use, or maybe you want to get really crazy and experimental and start like, I don't know, making a wallet that's compatible with Taro. Like, what would that look like? Or, like a decentralized identity or something like that. Like a Web 5 kind of deal. Notice I said what number I said there.
Yeah. No
so just a place for the designers to experiment without the expectation that they have to have a coded project in, 48 hours.
Love it, man. All right, we're going to go to Lost Tapes then, because you did make an announcement. And just to really beat that joke, but true story to death, Stephen was very kind to come to where Bitcoin TV Studio and Bitcoin Park originally was founded, which was my garage. And we recorded a podcast, and he drove in, I think it was before one of the meetups.
Yeah.
And he's like, Rod, I got this. We're about to launch this new site and so on. And I'd love to talk to you about it. I'm like, rock and roll. You remember what it was, by the way?
Yeah, it was a bitcoinqr.dev.
That's right.
It was our campaign from the design community to try and test for support of the like a single QR code that's on chain and Lightning, basically.
Steven's going in and just passionately explaining it all. We were recording it. We're clicking it all over the place, showcasing all the amazing, great work the team has been doing. And then I kind of chickened out and I was like, we're not going to post this just yet. I'm not ready. But I bring that up because you are going to launch something else. And I promise you, Tom, as my witness here, the producer for the Bitcoin, Builders in Bitcoin podcast, we are going to launch this.
Yeah, so the website should be live by the time, similar to last one where I was like, oh, Rod, when are you going to post this? This is going to be live. Same deal as this time. I'm pretty sure it's going to be live by the time you post, but it's the project is called WhenTaproot, and
Rock on.
it's kind of in a similar vein. I mean, for anyone who's listening, may not be aware of what Taproot is. It's the soft fork upgrade to Bitcoin that went into effect last November. The long story short is that it adds a lot of cool new functionality to Bitcoin. It's extremely technical to talk about, but the basic gist is it opens the doors for a lot of amazing things to be built on top of Bitcoin. So it's been almost a year now, and there's not we don't have enough wallets supporting Taproot yet, and the very initial thing that we're pushing for support of is trying to get wallets to support the pay to Taproot address format. So if you open up your on-chain Bitcoin wallet, back in the old days, it would be your address would begin with a 1. And then, if you switch to multi-sig, it might begin with a 3. And then once you got a SegWit wallet, it would be all your addresses begin with BC1Q. Well, for Taproot address, it's going to begin with BC1P. And we want to make sure that wallets are capable, just as a very basic prerequisite step, make sure as many wallets, exchanges, services, whatever in the industry can support sending to Taproot addresses. If they can't receive, they could do that later. But if we can just get everybody to support sending it, that will help the industry as a whole move forward. And so we're trying to crowdsource this, so that people can basically test out their favorite wallets, exchanges, whatever, see if they can send to a Taproot address. And if they can or they can't, whatever the outcome is, log it on our website, basically by opening an issue. And that way it'll help, again, if we can kind of, remind everyone in a friendly way to, support this, then we can, help move this forward.
Rock on, man. So going back to the Slack group, so each of these are different channels, and then people are just kind of taking the lead on building this out. And how did this even come about? Who even proposed this?
That was a funny story. So, back in, when I was doing bitcoinqr.dev, I proposed that to Steve Lee initially, and was just kind of like, I don't know, what do you think? Is this a good idea? And he's like, yeah, it's a good idea. So we started talking about it with more people, and then, Bosch got involved. A whole bunch of people got involved. So we did that. And so then, flash forward, almost a year or no, only 6 months or so. It was over the summer, and I was speaking at PlugFi LA, which was this small event put on by the LA Bit Devs focused on Taproot, and they wanted to have some designer presence there. And Andrew Yang is like, you don't have to talk about Taproot. You're a designer. And I'm like, no, I'm going to talk about Taproot. Don't tell me I can't talk about Taproot, Andrew. This is a challenge. So I talked about Taproot. I talked about designing for Taproot. And I was like...
Steven's, by the way, pounding his fist on the table right now.
Well, did I? I didn't mean to. No. I don't want to mess up the audio or anything. I'm trying to air tap the table. Anyways, whatever. So I do this talk about Taproot and the UX of it, and making sure that when you scan a Taproot address, if your wallet doesn't support it, make sure that you give a user-friendly error message, and then being okay, if you want to roll out Taproot and you support multiple address types, maybe the user interface could look like this. So basically, I was just talking about if you're going to add Taproot support, this is what the UI could look like. So I'm like, all right, that was a good talk. It seemed like it was well received. I'm going to do a blog post about it. Did this blog post, and sometimes I guess everyone, so I do a blog post, I do a tweet thread, people seem to like that. I did one of these tweet threads about Taproot, and I get DM'd by Merch.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Because Merch has his own little tracker.
Yeah, exactly. And he schooled me. He did it in private because I think he didn't want to embarrass me, but I don't like to hide things. He schooled me, and he went through a blog post and corrected all the stuff I got wrong. So that was really cool. But I updated it, all the thing, got Murch's blessing on it, and I guess like Murch is tweeting about Taproot, I'm tweeting about Taproot, and then like Steve kind of gets the crew back together and is like, "Hey, do you want to do another one of these campaign websites, Steve?" And it's like, "Let's talk to Murch. Let's get a crew together." So we got a crew together, and we've been working on it over there in Slack with several other people in the design community. So it's been cool.
That's awesome. So WhenTaproot.com, WHEN Taproot.com.
Yep.
It'll be live by the time of this recording.
Yes.
And go check it out.
And test your favorite wallet.
And
please.
Test your favorite wallet for sure. By the way, Atlanta's got, I want to say, one of the longest like Bitcoin communities.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
TABConf, TAB, is the Atlanta Bitcoin Conference. That was the original branding around it, and then they shortened it to TABConf.
Yep.
And so, look, there's a bunch of altcoinery and so on that's been around that area. I don't think Filecoin, but there was some like storage coin that was there. But again, I digress. The reason why I bring it up is like, is there a presence for like, where do you guys host your bit devs, and like how does that all work out?
Yeah, so I mean, when it first started off, it was it was at the Atlanta Tech Village. So that's when Mike Tidwell was originally hosting it, and Tech Village is still there. It's a great place. So there would be monthly meetups there.
But that's more VC tech focused type of companies, right?
At the Atlanta Tech Village, yeah.
At the Atlanta Tech
But it's also kind of like a co-working space. So you don't have to like have an investor. You can just grab a desk there like any other. It's just it's expensive, but yeah. There's just startups with desks and solopreneurs and all that. So we were doing them there for a while. And I mean, honestly, I think I hear that Mike hosted these like, I don't know, like in some business's attic or something. It was a legend. That was like the early days before I was involved. Stopped hosting at the Tech Village. We're now doing our monthly meetups at NCR. So NCRs,
cool.
they're big supporters of Bitcoin. They've in Atlanta, they've sponsored TABConf last year, and they allow us to use that. They have a really sick meeting space in the lobby, actually. So it's real cool because we can do an Atlanta BitDev Socratic seminar in the lobby with like this like bleacher seating as like NCR employees are leaving for the day, and then they walk through them like, what's going on here?
I would think there's NCR point of sale systems throughout the building.
Oh yeah.
So I will ask a question.
Yeah.
Can you use Strike or any Bitcoin wallet to buy stuff on that NCR terminal?
Okay, so like that stuff is usually like off like at this time of day. It's like after hours, so we can't usually get to it. But yes, we've had people at our meetup who work at NCR who've shown us videos of that kind of stuff working. We did it at a BitDevs once. I'm not like naming names just because it'll happen at a Socratic and all that. But they've shown us videos of like stuff in progress. It's been pretty cool. And those are our monthlies. So the Socratic seminar is like the bigger event. Then we do smaller things like reading groups and stuff like that at the Terminus Electric Money Laboratory.
So I was about to say, it seems like you guys need your own space, like a Bitcoin Commons or a Pleb Lab, or here like a Bitcoin Park. When's that going to happen?
We got it.
Really?
Yeah.
But when and where is this?
Well, I don't have a budget, so I can't get the word out as easily. But it's called.
You don't need a budget for that. You just need a tweet.
Yeah,
you got a lot of followers.
I did make a tweet. It didn't work. I suck at Twitter.
You and me both, man.
No, it's called the Terminus Electric Money Laboratory.
Terminus Electric Money Laboratory. Okay.
Yep. And it is
why Terminus?
Well, Terminus is the historic name for Atlanta. It was like the first name, I believe. It's been through many names. It's been Terminus. It's been it was Marthasville at one point. I think there might have been another name
before Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was where the railroad ended. The railroad ended, and what is now basically back in the old days, the railroad system
educate me.
Yeah, it terminated in the middle of a forest, and so they're like, oh, it terminates there. That's Terminus. You can look it up on Wikipedia. Some guy's like, oh, this is it's just some freaking thing in the forest. It's only going to be good for like a saloon, and that's it. Saloon and like a way to resupply your train or whatever. I don't know. So they basically was like, this is just, the end of the line. It's in a forest, whatever. Okay. So then, you flash forward, centuries and it's like turned into this, metropolis. And, I mean, to be perfectly honest, we brainstormed a whole whiteboard of like me and Brian Nani and Alex Lewin, my co-founders. We brainstormed a whole whiteboard of ideas and we settled on this because it's just like this ticked all the boxes. But one of the things I personally liked about it is it was kind of like by referencing that old name, it's like, look at us now.
That's freaking cool, man.
But we wanted to reference the electric money aspect of it well, and just focus. I mean, we thought about, should it have Bitcoin in the name? Should it have pleb in the name? Should it have this in the name, that in the name? But we really liked the idea of just treating it as money. Just let it be the best money.
Man, that warms my heart, and I wish if we had given it more thought, we probably wouldn't have had the word Bitcoin in Bitcoin Park, me and Matt. Eventually, I think Bitcoin will just fall out of the park and it'll just be called the park. Remind me the name one more time, Terminus.
Terminus Electric Money Laboratory.
Terminus Electric Money Laboratory.
Yep.
Okay. Tell me about this.
Yeah. So I mean, we're collaborating with another co-working space in the area to basically set aside space just for Bitcoiners. So we've got conference rooms available to use. We've got desk space available for people to use. We got several people who work there on a daily basis. We also have some people who just stop by, when they're in town and need a place to work. We also, for Bitcoiners traveling through the city, if you're working on an open source project, working for a Bitcoin company, you need a place to work while you're traveling through Atlanta, hit us up. We'll find a space for you. We're also hosting workshops and events there. We did like every week we're hosting the BitDevs reading groups. Where we basically read like, white papers and, project papers, BIPs, things like that. We did a Terminus tailgate last weekend where we were watching the Real Bedford game, and Doug from the Bit Plebs made a like a real nice cut of meat to big piece of barbecue for the whole room. It was great. But yeah, I mean, it's basically the basic gist is workshops, events, office space, and collaboration.
That's freaking awesome. So it's more like a Bitcoin Commons then, if you will, where you like maybe have a subscription on hot desks or office space. Is that who you're kind of looking to?
Yeah, absolutely. So like at the moment, like, if you want, here's the thing, if you want to come test it out, if you want to come work there for a little bit while you're in town, just hit us up. We'll work something out with you. For people who want to like work there like on the regular, then we'll hook you up with a membership. So we'll talk about the pricing on that with you. We want to make it work for everybody. So yeah, it's basically like, we're selling co-working space at the start right now. And then, we're hosting events and all that kind of stuff.
New York's got PubKey. Austin's got Pleb Lab and Bitcoin Commons. Atlanta's got Terminus Electric Money Laboratory.
Yeah.
And now Nashville's got Bitcoin Park.
Exactly.
How cool is this?
It's amazing. I'll tell you one thing about it too that's like kind of, I guess what makes it a little bit different, like, because all of these like Bitcoin, like physical spaces kind of have their own unique vibe to them. The kind of angle for this one is that like, again, Atlanta has all these old names. All these nicknames too. It's the forest and the tree, or the city and the forest. It's also Transaction Alley. It's a lesser known nickname for Atlanta.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So, I mean, I'm going to butcher the statistics, right? But the statistic is that an overwhelming majority of the United States digital transactions pass through Georgia. It's like, I want to say it's like 65, 75% or something like that. I have to like, duck search that to be accurate. But
fact check them.
It's fact check me. But it's a ridiculous majority of transactions pass through Georgia. So the thinking is we got Atlanta, it's capital of Georgia. You have all these companies there. You got NCR, you got WorldPay, you got more of them than I can count. I mean, there's so many credit card digital transaction processing companies people don't even, usually know about in regular conversation. A lot of them are in Atlanta. Okay, so if we're all in Bitcoin, we all think that this is disruptive. Maybe you're into on-chain, maybe you're into Lightning, maybe you think everyone's going to have a Lightning node on their phone, maybe you think that it's going to be custodial Lightning, maybe you think it's going to be Fedimints, I don't know. People disagree about the exact implementation, but We're all here because we think Bitcoin is going to disrupt a lot of the existing infrastructure. So if we have all these transaction processing companies in our city, and if we think that Bitcoin is going to disrupt everything and the Lightning Network is going to disrupt everything, it's going to disrupt all these companies in our city. So why don't we build a space where people working on Bitcoin can come work together, network with other people who are working on similar projects, get some of that synergy going, places where these companies can send their employees to do workshops so that they can learn about the Lightning Network and all the surrounding suite of technologies in Bitcoin. Like, there's no reason that they can't get involved in that. And so if they just need a space where they know they need people in their city who can help them learn about that stuff. So I think more importantly, we see Atlanta as being a transaction processing hub, and these companies, they can continue, kind of with a bold future on the Lightning Network.
Amen. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's something similar we're trying to do here at Bitcoin Park, is make this a place, be a gravitational force for folks pretty much from all over the United States and all over the world to come and work, meet, and create and think through different areas to help drive grassroots local Bitcoin adoption or global, Bitcoin adoption. So I am super impressed. I mean, I didn't even think we were going to go into all these aspects. We talk about the Bitcoin design community. We talk about TABConf that you're working on. We talked about new sites that you're building and launching, WhenTaproot.com, which I'm excited to check out. And then now you just, kind of blindsided me with that new co-working place for Bitcoiners to meet up in Atlanta. Dang, Stephen. Anything else I missed?
No, I think you got it. I mean, thank you. And I look forward to working at Bitcoin Park next time I'm here for a meetup. Actually, in like 5 minutes, I got to get on Slack.
That's right. Well, thanks again. I always enjoy this. And I promise, because Tom's to my right now, this will be published. So thanks again, Stephen.
Thank
really
you, Rod.
Appreciate you. Hey, y'all. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Stephen as much as I did. Stephen's commitment to fostering a strong community of Bitcoiners in Atlanta and beyond is as inspiring as it is important to growing widespread Bitcoin adoption. If you're enjoying the pod and want to auto-magically stay up to date, please like and subscribe in your favorite podcasting app. And make sure auto-download is on. This would also mean the world to me. Come visit us in Nashville at Bitcoin Park, by the way. The Bitcoin community here in Nashville continues to get stronger by the day. We recently announced a Nash BitDevs. Our first BitDevs is happening on Tuesday, October 4th. So if you want to be the first to stay up to date, RSVP and such, join our meetup page at meetup.com/Bitcoin Park. We also have a new Discord community server, which is very active. Consider joining to stay up to date and engaged with what is happening in and around Bitcoin Park. The link will be in the show notes. Until next time.